Okinawa, April 1945. The largest amphibious assault in Pacific history has stalled. 180,000 American troops face an enemy that vanishes into the earth itself. Above ground, the Japanese appear defeated. Below, they control a fortress that spans the entire island. Carved into Okinawa's limestone bedrock lies the Shuri defense line. Over 60 miles of interconnected tunnels, caves and bunkers, hand-dug by forced labor, reinforced with concrete and steel, stocked with ammunition, medical supplies, and enough food to last months. Private First Class Daniel Kuroda crawls toward the entrance. A narrow slit beneath twisted banyan roots. His sea stays behind. Down here it's a liability. One shot alerts every defender within a quarter mile. Instead, he carries his father's combat knife and a standard-issue flashlight. The entrance seals behind him with stone and vines. Light vanishes. Kuroda's mission is simple. Locate the command center, controlling the southern sector. Gather intelligence on troop positions, supply routes, and defensive plans. If he fails, the next marine assault launches blind into prepared kill zones. The tunnel ahead drops 3 levels deep. Storage chambers near the surface, living quarters in the middle, command centers at the bottom, protected by the island's bedrock. Each level connected by narrow passages designed for one purpose: channeling invaders into preset ambush points. But Kuroda has advantages most soldiers don't. At 5 feet 4 inches, he fits where others can't. Born in California to Japanese immigrants, he speaks the language fluently. Most importantly, he understands the enemy's mindset. The Japanese aren't just fighting for territory, they're fighting for time. Every day the Americans spend digging them out gives the mainland more time to prepare for invasion. Kuroda moves forward, one elbow at a time. The air grows thick with moisture and the metallic smell of limestone. Somewhere ahead, muffled voices echo through stone corridors. He's not alone down here. The tunnel curves left, then drops sharply. Kuroda's boots find purchase on carved stone steps. The Japanese have been preparing this position for months. Above ground, the kamikaze attacks have already begun. Divine Wind pilots dive their Zeros into American destroyers offshore. Fire spreads across the water. Metal screams against metal. Kuroda reaches the first chamber, the Todoroki cave entrance system. What started as natural limestone formations has been expanded into a military complex. Concrete reinforces the walls. Ventilation shafts snake toward the surface. Electric cables run along the ceiling, powering radio equipment and lighting. But something's wrong. The cables are severed. Emergency lanterns flicker weakly in the distance. This isn't an active command post. It's a tomb. The smell hits him first, sweet and metallic. Bodies decompose differently underground, slower. The cool temperature and limestone preserve everything. Kuroda covers his nose with his sleeve and moves deeper. What he finds changes everything he thought he knew about this war. Scattered across the cave floor are Japanese uniforms mixed with civilian clothing. Women, children, elderly, all dead, not from American bullets or bombs, from cyanide capsules and hand grenades. Mass suicide rather than capture. The Japanese call it gyokusai, death before dishonor. But these aren't soldiers. They're families. Okinawan civilians who fled into the caves seeking shelter. Imperial propaganda convinced them that Americans would torture and kill prisoners. Better to die by their own hand than face capture. Over 100,000 Okinawan civilians will die during this battle. many in caves just like this one. Kuroda steps carefully between the bodies. His flashlight beam catches something moving in the shadows. Not Japanese soldiers, American flamethrower units. They've found another entrance. The tunnels echo with shouted orders and the roar of pressurized fuel igniting. Temperature spikes. Smoke pours through the passages. The Americans have learned that conventional weapons don't work underground. But fire does. Fire drives everything out. Kuroda has minutes before the flames reach his position. He needs to find the command center and extract intelligence before the entire complex becomes an inferno. But the deeper levels are where Japanese soldiers make their final stands. The tunnel splits into 3 passages. Left leads toward the sound of combat. Center drops deeper into darkness. Right angles upward toward what might be an escape route. Behind him, orange light flickers against the walls. The flamethrowers are getting closer. Kuroda checks his knife and chooses the center passage. If there's a command post down here, it's in the deepest part of the complex. Protected by layers of stone and defended by soldiers who would rather die than surrender. He crawls forward into the darkness, past rooms filled with Japanese medical supplies, ammunition caches, and the remnants of an underground society that chose death over defeat. The limestone walls begin to show stress fractures. Water seeps through cracks. The island's bedrock is collapsing under the weight of artillery bombardment from above. These caves that once promised safety have become mass graves. And somewhere in the depths, intelligence that could save thousands of American lives waits in the darkness. The center passage narrows. Kuroda's shoulders scrape limestone walls. His flashlight beam catches wooden support beams reinforcing the ceiling. Japanese engineering, built to last. But the constant artillery bombardment above has shifted the island's foundation. Cracks spider across the supports. Water drips steadily from hairline fractures. Each drop echoes in the silence. The island is slowly drowning from within. Kuroda reaches another chamber, larger than the first. His light sweeps across tatami mats, cooking pots, children's toys scattered across the floor. Families lived here, ate here, died here. In the corner, a woman clutches a baby to her chest, both still. A grenade pin lies beside her hand. She chose to kill her child rather than let Americans capture them. This is what imperial propaganda created. Fear so complete that death seemed merciful. But Kuroda isn't here to mourn. He's here for intelligence. A narrow staircase leads deeper. The air grows thicker, stale. Oxygen levels drop the further down he goes. At the bottom, a heavy wooden door reinforced with metal bands. A command post. He tests the handle, locked from the inside. Behind the door, voices, urgent whispers in Japanese. Officers planning their final defense. Maps spread across tables. Radio equipment crackling with static. Communications with other cave complexes across the island. This is what command needs. Kuroda draws his knife and examines the door frame. The wood is old but solid. The lock is military grade. Breaking through would alert everyone inside. But there's another way. Above the door, a ventilation shaft, just wide enough for a man to crawl through. He climbs, using cracks in the limestone as handholds. The shaft angles sharply downward. His elbows bang against metal ductwork. Every sound echoes. If someone looks up at the wrong moment, he's dead. The shaft opens into the command center. 3 Japanese officers hunched over a table. Maps of southern Okinawa, marked with defensive positions. Radio frequencies written on paper scraps. Supply caches marked with red circles. Everything command needs to break the Shuri line. But getting it means killing 3 men in close quarters with only a knife. And the room has no other exits. If he fails, he dies with them. The officers wear sidearms. Kuroda counts 2 Type 94 pistols and 1 officer's katana. They're discussing evacuation routes to the island's southern tip. Final defensive positions where they'll make their last stand. 1 officer stands. Kuroda freezes in the ventilation shaft. The man walks to a radio set and begins transmitting. Coordinates for artillery strikes on American positions. Real-time intelligence that's killing Marines above ground right now. Kuroda has no choice. He drops through the shaft opening, knife ready. The first officer turns just as the blade finds his throat. Silent, quick, professional. The second reaches for his pistol. Kuroda tackles him, driving the knife between his ribs. The man gasps, but doesn't cry out. The third officer grabs his katana and swings. The blade misses Kuroda's head by inches. He rolls, comes up low, and drives his knife upward into the man's chest. 3 dead officers. Maps covered in blood. Radio equipment still crackling with incoming transmissions from other cave complexes. Kuroda stuffs the maps inside his jacket. Rips frequency lists from the radio. Grabs ammunition counts and supply manifests. Intelligence that will save hundreds of American lives. But now comes the hard part, getting out alive. But the complex is collapsing. Flames are closing in. He searches the bodies, finds a map showing secondary tunnels to the coast. Risky, flooded, fragile, but it's the only way out. Kuroda studies a map. Escape tunnels snake through unstable limestone. Risk of collapse or flooding is high, but it's better than burning. He crawls into a 3-foot-high shaft as flamethrowers close in. Water drips from above. The tide is rising. At a fork, he chooses the left path, toward the coast. Explosions echo behind as Americans collapse the main complex. He emerges on a cliff ledge facing the Pacific. Kamikaze smoke on the horizon. But a machine gun nest blocks the exit. He silently kills 2 soldiers, then tackles the third over the cliff. They plunge into the sea. Kuroda survives, gasping, bruised. Intelligence packets still secure. American patrol boats spot him. He yells, "Don't shoot," American operative, and produces critical Japanese defense intel. A sergeant, recognizing his code and uniform, pulls him aboard. The war may soon end. 3 days later, American forces use his intelligence to outflank the Shuri line. Japanese defenders, their positions compromised, begin a fighting withdrawal to the southern tip of Okinawa. The battle will rage for another month. 12,300 Americans will die. 110,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians will perish in caves, bunkers, and final charges across open ground. But the intelligence Kuroda extracted from those limestone tombs saves thousands more from dying blind against prepared positions. The caves of Okinawa still hold bones today. American and Japanese, soldier and civilian, mixed together in the darkness, where the distinction between hero and enemy dissolved into simple survival. In war, there are no clean victories, only degrees of necessary horror.